The morning sunlight came through my kitchen windows. It shone across the wooden floor, making long, bright rectangles that looked like gold bars lying on the ground. Half of my moving boxes were still packed, stacked in corners, waiting for me to open them. I held a coffee cup in one hand, feeling its warmth spread through my fingers. With the other hand, I sorted through my mail, trying to act normal in my new house. I had worked so hard to get this house, but today, everything felt strange. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe and join the awesome community. Drop a comment below to tell me where you're watching from and what you think of the story. One letter looked different from the rest. It had big, official markings on it, and my stomach felt tight just looking at it. My hands shook as I held the envelope. With a deep breath, I tore it open. Inside were legal papers. My parents, Cashin and Isolde, were suing me. My coffee cup slipped from my hands and crashed to the floor. Dark coffee spilled into the cracks between the tiles, soaking the grout. My hands trembled and I stared at the papers, unable to believe what I was reading. The letter said I had to give my house to my sister, Callista, and pay $300,000. My mind went blank. My own parents were trying to take my house away. Just 2 weeks ago, I signed papers to buy this house. It cost $412,000. It was the first big thing I had ever bought by myself. The real estate agent had smiled so brightly when she handed me the keys. "You did this all by yourself," she said. "That's something to be proud of." That night I celebrated alone. I had takeout Chinese food and a bottle of champagne I had saved from my work promotion last year. I walked through the empty rooms, imagining all the furniture I would buy. I pictured where the couch would go, where my desk would sit, and even where the bed would be. I was finally in a place that belonged just to me. I even showed my grandpa on a video call. I held up my phone, pointing it around the empty living room. "Look at this, Grandpa," I said. "I did it." His eyes filled with tears. "You sure did, sweetheart," he said. For a moment, everything felt perfect. But then I noticed little signs that something was wrong. Right after I told my parents about the house, I saw their faces on FaceTime. They looked stiff and worried. My sister Callista hovered behind them, holding a shiny designer purse. "How many bedrooms?" my mom asked, her smile forced and a little brittle. "3 and a nice yard," I answered, trying to sound happy. "That's quite a purchase for someone your age," my dad said, jaw tight. Callista leaned into the frame. "It must be nice to have that kind of money," she said, smiling in a way that didn't feel friendly. "You know your sister's been having a rough time," my mom added, looking at me. I should have known then that something was wrong, but I didn't. A week later they called me on FaceTime again. My dad's serious work voice filled the screen, the one he always used for difficult conversations with his employees. "We need to talk about a family matter," he said. My mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue as if she had been crying. "We've always put family first, haven't we? Always supported each other. Your sister needs stability more than you do," my dad continued. "She has plans for that house. You can keep renting." I stared at them, confused. "This is my house. I worked for it. Callista can earn her own," I said. "Don't be selfish," my mom snapped. "Family helps family." The next day the certified letter arrived. My throat tightened as I read the words. Aunt Vespra, my mother's sister, was helping pay for the lawsuit. An email from Callista said I had stolen her chance to have the house. The letter demanded that I give the house to her, continue paying the mortgage for 18 months, pay $300,000 for child-rearing costs, and write an apology for damaging family trust. My hands shook as I called my grandpa. "They've gone too far this time," he said, his voice full of anger. I spent the next hour looking for lawyers, but the retainer fees started at $10,000. Money I didn't have, not after buying the house. My heart sank. I realized I would have to defend myself. That night I sat alone in my new home. Boxes I hadn't unpacked surrounded me. Tears wanted to fall, but I held them back. Instead I felt something stronger: determination. They wanted my house, the one I had worked 15 years to earn. The house I had bought after overtime shifts and careful saving. They thought they could take it. Let them try. I walked to my bedroom window and looked down at the quiet street. This was my home. My achievement. My line in the sand. They had attacked what I had built. Now I will defend it. I spread my financial papers across the dining table. The sunlight made shadows between the stacks of bank statements and tax forms. My laptop was open to a spreadsheet showing 15 years of my life. The numbers told a story my family didn't want to tell. I remembered when I was 16. I worked at Morningstar Coffee for $5.25 an hour. Tips were split between 3 baristas. My feet hurt after 8-hour shifts and the smell of burnt espresso followed me home. "You're missing Callista's Sweet 16, my mom texted that night. There had been a fancy party with floating lanterns and a chocolate fountain. Cost me 3 months of my wages. I traced the columns of my community college receipts. Night classes after work, buying used textbooks, carefully budgeting every meal. My dad's voice echoed from that time. An accounting certificate? That's not even a real degree, he had said. I remembered my 18th birthday. Not the party but the fight afterward. What do you mean you won't fill out the FAFSA? I had asked, clutching my university papers. You're an adult now. Time to stand on your own, my dad said. A week later I found an apartment for $400 a month. It had roaches but it was mine. That was the start of my real independence. Back in the present my phone buzzed. It was my mom calling. Sweetheart, she said in a shaky voice. We gave you and Callista exactly what you needed. Why are you being so difficult? I let it go to voicemail. I found an old email from my dad about my emergency root canal 4 years ago. Figure it out, he had written. Next to it were bank statements showing $2,000 sent to Callista that same week for creative supplies. Her Instagram showed trips to Paris and Rome, all paid for by my parents. Meanwhile, my student loans kept getting smaller, one payment at a time, $47,000 paid by me alone. Aunt Vespera called next. You selfish girl, she said. After everything our family has done for you. I looked her up online. 5 years ago she had been in foreclosure and had been living in my parents' guest house. She wasn't just helping with the lawsuit, she had her own reasons. Callista's studio apartment had been evicted 3 weeks ago. The timing made perfect sense now. The doorbell rang. Grandpa stood on my porch with a cardboard box. Thought you might need these, he said. Inside were decades of family financial records, neatly organized. They tried this with your cousin Leaf too, he said, sitting in my kitchen chair. Leaf's auto shop had started making money, and the family tried to claim he owed them money. My phone beeped. Leaf had texted me, heard about the lawsuit. Don't let them win. Later my neighbor brought a potted plant. Welcome to the neighborhood, she said warmly. My old boss at Morningstar Coffee emailed me. Remember your Employee of the Year award? Happy to be a character reference. The support made me feel stronger. Then more problems came. A certified letter threatened property liens. Callista posted on Facebook about her heartless sister. Calls from my parents' country club friends pressured me. Aunt Vespera drove past in her silver Mercedes 3 times, taking photos. My boss called about an anonymous complaint about my character. I spent my lunch break filing a motion to dismiss, using everything I had learned about the law. The court clerk looked surprised. This is surprisingly thorough, she said. The preliminary hearing was set for next month. I asked for unpaid leave from work, ignoring my boss's worried frown. That evening I sat on my porch swing, watching the sun turn the sky shades of orange and pink. I remembered walking down the street as a teenager, dreaming of a house of my own. Maybe you're dreaming too big, my mom had said. But I did it anyway. A young family walked past, children laughing as they chased fireflies. I thought about the locksmith coming tomorrow and the security system next week. I was not just protecting my house, I was protecting my boundaries. They say blood is thicker than water. But some family ties are actually chains. Sometimes love means standing firm even when it hurts. Independence has a price, but sometimes it is worth paying. I gathered my documents and went inside, leaving the porch light on. Not for family but for the new friends I was building, one kindness at a time. Next week, letters came from my parents' church, asking why I was being so hard-hearted. I added them to the pile. Callista posted on Instagram holding our childhood photo album. Family means supporting each other no matter what, she said. Broken-hearted family first, the caption read. It was 3 a.m., the perfect time for sympathy posts. I opened my financial tracking spreadsheet, the one I kept since my first job at May's Diner. I remembered scrubbing dishes until midnight at 15 while other kids planned homecoming. May had told me, "You're building something, girl. Keep those records clean. Every cell tells a story." $6.25 an hour times 30 hours a week, minus bus fare. Community college tuition worked around 3 part-time jobs. The small studio apartment with a leaking ceiling, second-hand futon I bought for $40. My mom had visited once. "You really live like this?" she asked, looking at my thrift store furniture. The spreadsheet continued. Monthly savings transfers starting at $200, then $300 as I earned more. Every penny carefully saved for my dream of owning a home. Even when I was exhausted, even when life was unfair, I kept going. Every late night, every hard day, every dollar saved. It all led to this house, this home that was mine. They wanted to take it, but I wasn't going to give up. I reminded myself of every small step I had taken. Every shift at Morningstar Coffee. Every community college class after work. Every thrift store finds my apartment. Every tiny paycheck saved even when it was hard. That house was proof of all that work. I would fight. A knock at the door interrupted my review. I quickly looked at the security camera feed, something Grandpa had set up for me. On the screen, I could see Mrs. Sylvie from 2 doors down standing at my porch. She was holding a paper bag and smiling kindly. "Thought you might need lunch," she said, lifting the bag just a little so I could see inside. I smiled, feeling a small warmth inside. Sometimes the simplest acts of kindness make the hardest days easier. Blaze, one of my neighbors, was taking the 3 to 6 p.m. watch shift today. Since Aunt Vespera's shiny Mercedes had started appearing on our street so often, our neighbors had organized an informal rotation to keep an eye out. It felt comforting, like having an invisible shield around me, protecting me even when I was alone. Later that week, on a Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a breaking news notification. It was Callista, my sister, being interviewed by the local newspaper. My stomach dropped. I opened the article and saw her posed in her old studio apartment, surrounded by half-finished canvases. She looked proud, artistic, and confident. Just then my phone rang. It was Leaf. "Saw the article," he said without any greetings. "Did you get those account records you asked for? The ones about the family investment they said I owed." I swallowed hard. Looking at the records again, I noticed something strange. The numbers matched Aunt Vespera's foreclosure exactly. It was a coincidence too big to ignore. Later, I walked into Whole Foods to pick up a few groceries and the automatic doors slid open. My heart froze. There, standing by the organic produce, was Callista. Her designer sunglasses were perched on her head, her presence filling the aisle. Too late to turn back, she had already spotted me. "Well, if it isn't the family trader," she announced, loud enough for nearby shoppers to hear. I tried to ignore the stares of other people and focused on selecting tomatoes. "Hello, Callista," I said calmly, keeping my voice steady. "You always thought you were better than us." She stepped closer, her voice low and sharp. "With your spreadsheets and your boring job, do you know what that house could have been? An amazing art cafe. People would love it." I took a deep breath, meeting her eyes. "And how would you handle the mortgage? The property taxes?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, obviously that part would still be your responsibility since you're so good with money." Her lip curled in disdain. "Unlike some of us who actually pursued our passions." The store manager appeared, looking concerned. "Is everything all right?" Callista's voice grew louder, dramatic. "My own sister? Abandoning her family." I didn't argue. I left my shopping cart behind and walked calmly toward the exit, her performance echoing behind me. The manager caught my eye with a knowing look. He seemed to understand exactly what was really happening. Back home, I spread out the documents Grandpa had delivered. There were my parents' financial records showing that Callista's $90,000 student loans had been paid in full. There was also a $25,000 business loan for her failed pottery studio. The property deed for the house showed it was mortgage-free. And then, buried in old emails, I found the truth. Aunt Vespera had written about teaching Callista a lesson about family obligation, making sure she had a chance to become independent. My hands shook as I compiled all the court exhibits. The room felt like it was spinning, memories flooding in like a storm. I was 5 years old again, watching Mom remove my crayon drawing from the refrigerator. Grandma had always supported me quietly, letting me grow and explore. She had left space for me to learn. Callista needed space for her new watercolor art. A gentle knock at the door brought me back to the present. Grandpa entered, carrying a weathered photo album. "Found these in the attic," he said, settling into a chair beside me. Your grandmother kept everything. The photos told a story I had forgotten. Me at every minimum wage job, proudly holding my first paychecks. Perfect attendance certificates from school. My community college graduation with Grandma beaming beside me. She saw you, Grandpa said softly. She knew what you were building. Tears blurred my vision as I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, practicing my court statement. I spoke clearly, the voice stronger than I felt. I am not responsible for supporting adult family members who refuse to support themselves. I straightened my blazer, bought on sale last year and carefully noted in my budget. The security cameras blinked steadily. My evidence binders were stacked and ready. Each document told its own truth. Aunt Vesper's Mercedes passed by again, but I didn't flinch. I touched the small photo of Grandma I planned to carry tomorrow. She understood the price of independence. Some sacrifices strengthen us, even as they break our hearts. Tomorrow I will tell you my truth. Tonight I fortified my walls, not with bricks, but with 15 years of carefully documented work, savings, and the quiet strength of those who believe in earning their own way. The day of the confrontation arrived. The courthouse steps gleamed in the morning sun. I adjusted my grip on the leather document case, a graduation gift from Grandma, now carrying the weight of 15 years of receipts, statements, and records. Each step felt deliberate, grounding me. The glass doors reflected my image. Navy blazer, pressed slacks, minimal jewelry, professional and prepared. I remembered my first courthouse visit at 16, when I had trembled and asked for work papers. Now I am calm, confident, and ready. Perfect timing. Callista's voice rang across the marble lobby. My family stood together on the courthouse steps, wearing matching white t-shirts under jackets and cardigans. Mom dabbed at carefully smudged mascara, while Dad's attorney arranged papers with theatrical precision. Aunt Vesper caught my eye, her familiar smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. Last chance to avoid embarrassing the family, she whispered. I kept walking, my heels clicking steadily against the marble. The security guard nodded as I passed through the metal detector. My heartbeat was steady despite all the stairs. The courtroom felt smaller than expected. The wood panels absorbed sound, creating a focused silence. I arranged my exhibits with practiced efficiency, each tab color-coded and annotated. The methodology that earned eye rolls at family dinners now served as armor. Everyone stood as Judge Martinez entered, her gaze scanning both sides. Her eyes lingered on the matching t-shirts before settling on my stack of motions. Interesting filing, she commented, scanning the first page. Please proceed. Dad's attorney rose, straightening his tie. Your Honor, this case centers on familial obligation and traditional values. The Lorne family invested approximately $300,000 in raising their daughter, as documented by USDA statistics. Objection, I said clearly. Standard child care costs don't create legal debt. Sustained, Judge Martinez said, tapping her pen. Counsel, proceed with actual claims. Mom took the stand first, holding a tissue dramatically. We sacrificed everything for our girls. Private lessons, summer camps. How can she abandon us now that she's successful? I stayed focused on my notes as she described my selfish career choices. Each accusation landed softer than before, buffered by years of documented truth. Dad testified next, his authoritative voice filling the courtroom. In our family, children support their parents. It's understood. When was this agreement made? Judge Martinez interrupted. It's traditional, implied, Dad stammered. I stood for cross-examination. Did you provide similar support for Callista's education? Objection. Irrelevant, their attorney said. I'll allow it, Judge Martinez said. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Callista needed help pursuing her artistic gifts. Please review Exhibit C, I directed, holding up bank statements showing $90,000 in student loan payments for Callista's fine arts degree and $25,000 for her pottery studio. Callista testified next, tears flowing on cue. The house would be perfect for my healing art cafe concept. I'd let Aloan keep a room, of course. And the mortgage? Property taxes? Judge Martinez asked. Well, Aloan's good with money stuff, Callista waved dismissively. Judge Martinez raised an eyebrow. What's your current employment status? I'm between projects, Callista sniffed. I stood and laid out 15 years of pay stubs, rent receipts, and college transcripts. I began working at 15, Your Honor. Every job documented, every penny accounted for. Including parental support? The judge asked. None received. I paid my own way through community college while working 3 jobs. The down payment for my house came from 15 years of careful saving, I said, showing bank statements. She's ungrateful. Aunt Vespera burst out. Silence. Judge Martinez warned. She studied my documentation and then addressed my parents directly. Would you be making these demands if both daughters were struggling financially? Silence. I've heard enough, the judge said. This case lacks legal merit. Properties purchased independently remain independent. Case dismissed with prejudice. Aunt Vespera screeched as security escorted her out. Callista collapsed in the hallway, but the court personnel carefully stepped around her. You'll regret choosing money over family, she called after me. I paused at the courthouse doors, sunlight streaming through glass. Mom's voice rose behind me. How could you do this to your family? But the weight pressing against my chest for months lifted. I saw Grandpa's truck idling at the curb. You okay, kid? He asked. I think I finally am, I said. Grandma would be proud, he whispered softly. She always said you had the strength to build your own path. The streets looked different now, clearer, like after a storm. Each carefully earned mile brought me closer to home, my home, protected now by truth and law and the quiet power of standing firm. I touched the small photo of Grandma in my pocket. She'd understood the price of independence and the courage required to choose yourself. Some sacrifices strengthen us, even as they break our hearts. The hardest boundaries can become the strongest foundations. The security system chimed as I entered my home, legally protected now. The quiet felt different, not peaceful exactly but fortified. My phone buzzed. Another notification from Callista's GoFundMe appeared. She was telling lies, saying I had stolen her future, asking for donations for her art cafe while claiming I faced homelessness. I screenshot it from my attorney, then silenced the notifications. Her lies hurt less than the calculated manipulation she had been planning for years. A text from Leaf appeared. Did you see the email? Uncle Cashin and Aunt Isolde really outdid themselves. They sent a mass email to the extended family, saying I was ungrateful too. I saw it. Sounds familiar, I replied. That night the security system chirped again. Motion detected. Through the camera app I watched Aunt Vespera's Mercedes creep past my house for the 3rd time. At midnight the camera caught her approaching my front door, spray paint glinting in the porch light. You ungrateful little. She didn't finish. She realized she was being recorded. The paint disappeared into her designer bag as she hurried away, but not before leaving a bright red streak across my new door. The police officer came very quickly. We have clear video, he said, watching the recording on his tablet. His voice was calm but firm. I felt a little relief knowing someone was helping. Do you want to press charges? He asked. I sat on the edge of the chair thinking about family dinners, birthdays, holidays, and all the complicated feelings tied to them. Some of the memories were warm but others were painful. I thought about the times I had tried to trust my family only to feel tricked or hurt. I knew what I had to do. I needed to get a restraining order. Going to the courthouse next week felt different now. It used to feel scary, like stepping into a big, strange building where people in black robes held all the power. But this time I felt strong. I felt like I had armor made of truth and courage. Where fear once lived, determination now took root in my heart. The clerk at the courthouse smiled politely as she helped me fill out the forms. Her eyebrows raised when she saw the family names. Judge Martinez's courtroom again, she said. She will remember the context. I nodded, quietly thankful. The temporary restraining order was approved immediately. The officer's testimony and the security footage made it clear that I needed protection. Each signature I made felt like both a victory and a little sadness. It was a victory because I was protecting my future, my home, and my peace. But it was also a loss because it meant I was cutting ties with a part of my past that I had once hoped could be different. I couldn't change what happened, but I could protect myself now. Some people have been through similar situations. Mrs. Chin, our old neighbor, told me stories over coffee. She was a kind woman with a gentle voice, and she had watched my family for years. They tried this with others too, she said. Your father demanded support from his brother before he got sick. Your aunt has always been jealous of your mother's marriage. Your family has a way of using money to control people. Grandfather added more details while we worked on his old truck together. I loved those times. The garage smelled like oil, metal, and sometimes sawdust. The tools were always lined up neatly and grandfather worked with patience. Your grandmother saved money for both of you girls for college, he said quietly. His hands were steady on the wrench, turning bolts with careful precision. Your parents redirected that money. They said it was for Callista's gift. I looked down at the floor, feeling the weight of his words. That's why my grandmother left me some money separately in her will, he said softly. The hearing for the permanent restraining order came faster than I expected, but it also felt slow in my heart. I wanted it over, but I wasn't ready to face my family in that courtroom again. Their matching shirts were gone now, replaced by subtle, fancy clothes and carefully polite manners. Their new lawyer tried to make me seem mean and unbalanced, talking about forgiveness and reconciliation. I stood in front of Judge Martinez. Your Honor, I said, my voice steady. I had organized all the evidence carefully. I wanted the truth to speak for itself. The security footage played. Police reports showed workplace disruptions, my family faking medical emergencies to get past security, screenshots of the GoFundMe and emails. Judge Martinez stopped the playback. Enough, she said, her voice firm. The restraining order was granted and expanded to include protection from digital harassment. If anyone broke it, there would be immediate consequences. That evening, the local newspaper ran the story. The family property lawsuit was dismissed, and the restraining order was officially approved. Callista's GoFundMe disappeared, reported for fraud. Messages trickled in from relatives. Some were quiet, offering support. Others shared their own stories. My cousin Rachel called me. She said she was proud of me. Grandfather told me over dinner, she's proud of you. Others are starting to talk about their experiences too. I watched him carefully season the potatoes. He moved slowly, paying attention to every step. That attention to detail was something he had taught me while we worked together in the garage, fixing engines and sharing life lessons. Does it get easier? I asked him. Choosing yourself? He set down his fork and looked at me. Sometimes family is what you build, not just who you're born to, he said. Your grandmother knew that. That's why she left you those tools in her will. Later that night, I went through my usual security routine. I locked all the doors, checked the cameras, and made sure everything was secure. The red paint on the door had been removed, but I could still feel the memory of it. It reminded me of the boundaries I had worked so hard to set. I opened my journal and started writing. Words flowed easily now. I had protected what I earned, but I was still mourning what never was. The family I had hoped for existed only in my dreams. The family I had now, people who told the truth and valued growth, were the ones who would be my real support. My phone lit up with a text from Leaf. Dinner next week, it said. Rachel and her kids wanted to meet at a new place downtown. I smiled and typed back, count me in. The security system beeped softly. Everything was safe. Outside, the sunset painted the Gialoan in gentle golden light. My grandmother's roses, transplanted from her yard, bloomed stubbornly against the fence. Some things, like these roses, grow stronger when they are forced to root in new soil. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight in my house I felt anchored in truth. Some victories carry sadness, but they also create space for new growth, new friendships, and new ways to think about family. I turned off all the lights except the porch light, a habit I had learned from my grandmother. Not all traditions needed to be broken. Some, like her wisdom and strength, became part of the foundation for something better. The morning sun shone through the kitchen windows. I measured coffee carefully, 2 scoops per cup, exactly like grandfather taught me. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with the smells of bread and butter, making the kitchen warm and comforting. Since the restraining order, my weekends had started to find their rhythm. Sorrel, my rescue dog, trotted to the back door with her tags jingling. She was part golden retriever and part something else, according to the shelter. She had her own routine now. She knew Mrs. Chin would be outside Gialowaning and ready with treats and kind words. Just a minute, girl, I said, checking the security app out of habit. The system was still active, but I had turned off most notifications. No more midnight alerts, no more tracking every passing car. The cameras were silent sentinels, watching quietly rather than reminding me of past fears. The garage smelled like sawdust, engine oil, and coffee. Grandfather was already there, setting up for our Sunday project. "Morning, kiddo," he said. "I thought we could finish the dining room table legs today." I handed him his coffee, black with 2 sugars. We worked in comfortable silence, measuring twice, cutting once. Outside, neighborhood children ran and played. Their parents waved instead of hurrying them along. The kids stopped to pet Sorrel through the fence. "Saw your father yesterday," Grandfather said suddenly, testing a joint on the wood. "At Sylvie's hardware." I kept my hand steady on the wood. "How did it go?" he asked. 10 years old, I said quietly. Both of them had changed a lot. Grandfather adjusted his grip on the plane. "Isolde was there too," he said. "She kept looking at the pillows like they held all the answers to life." I remembered the designer pillows at their house, perfectly arranged. Callista would fix them when she was stressed, while I kept secret spreadsheets of our family's spending. "She's in Oregon now," I said. "Some artist collective." Grandfather shook his head slowly. "Your aunt isn't doing well either. Blood pressure's through the roof, according to the gossip at church." I ran my hands over the wood grain. The growth rings reminded me of seasons of plenty and seasons of want, of strength built through adversity. We shaped the wood carefully, honoring its natural character while creating something new. Later, as the warm autumn sun shone in the backyard, friends started arriving for what had become our Sunday tradition, the potluck. Leaf, kids chased Sorrel around the lawn. Rachel set up lawn games. Narissa, my coworker who had stood by me during the lawsuit, arranged flowers from her geoloan. "Hard to believe it's been a year," she said. I nodded. "It's been a year since I bought this house." Every space now held purpose. My home office for work, the workshop for learning patience and building projects, the geoloan for growing flowers and friendships. Grandfather raised his glass. "To this home," he said. "And to the woman who built it, not just with wood and nails but with courage and truth." Everyone raised their glasses. Sorrel barked happily. The children laughed and sneaked her pieces of hot dog. Later, after the dishes were washed and leftovers were given to neighbors, I joined Grandfather on the porch swing. Sorrel lay at our feet, tired from refereeing the kids' soccer game. "You didn't just protect your house," he said quietly. "You defended your worth." Through the windows I could see the dining room table we were building. It wasn't finished yet, but it already promised something wonderful. "Some prices are worth paying for peace," I said. The stars began to twinkle in the night sky. Inside, Narissa and Rachel laughed over board games. Leaf helped his youngest with homework at the kitchen counter. Mrs. Chen's lights glowed next door as she watered her evening primrose. My phone buzzed. It was the young analyst I had been mentoring at work. She was leaving her financially abusive marriage and needed advice about building credit. "You showed me it's possible," she wrote. "I thought about that scared woman who first walked into Judge Martinez's courtroom. She was still there, still strong, still surrounded by people who recognized her worth." The security system beeped softly. The sound no longer made my heart race. It reminded me of boundaries I had earned, of peace I had fought to protect. Sorrel lifted her head as footsteps approached. It was the neighbor's teenager coming to ask if she could walk her tomorrow. "Same time as usual?" she called. "Perfect," I answered. Grandfather squeezed my shoulder as he went inside to claim his favorite armchair, the one we refinished together. His tools stayed in the garage, but his wisdom stayed with me. Outside, crickets started their evening song. On my porch I breathed deeply, enjoying the quiet and the peace I had built. Family isn't just the people you are born to. It's the people who choose to love you, support you, and help you grow. Every laugh, every wave from a neighbor, every shared meal, project, and quiet moment, all of these were the real measures of home. The stars wheeled overhead, constant and bright. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. But tonight, in the house I earned, shared, and filled with love, I was exactly where I needed to be. Family isn't only blood or obligation. Family is the people who celebrate your growth while respecting your boundaries. In my experience, it is those people who build the strongest foundations.